I'm a 32-year-old man, and I've been married to my wife Sarah for 3 years. Our relationship is solid. We communicate well, we support each other, and we rarely have major conflicts. The only real source of tension in our marriage is my mother, Linda. Linda has always made it clear that my younger brother Matt is her favorite. It's not subtle, and it's not something she's ever really tried to hide. Growing up, Matt got the newest gadgets, more lenient punishments, and all the praise. I, on the other hand, was always the one expected to be independent and not ask for too much. I've made my peace with it over the years, but it has become much more obvious since we both got married. Matt's wife, Jessica, is treated like royalty. My mother dotes on her, showers her with expensive gifts, and constantly brags about how lucky Matt is to have such a wonderful wife. Meanwhile, Sarah is treated like she barely exists. It's not outright hostility, it's worse than that. It's dismissal. If we're in a family gathering, Linda will ask Jessica about her job, her hobbies, her interests, and completely ignore Sarah. If Sarah tries to contribute to a conversation, Linda either talks over her or changes the subject. It's a pattern, and it's not just in person. Linda constantly organizes family outings, dinners, weekend trips, small get-togethers, and conveniently forgets to invite us. We usually find out about these events through social media, where Matt and Jessica are front and center in all the photos. When I bring it up, Linda always has an excuse. Oh, I thought you were busy, or it was last minute. Nothing special. But it's never last minute, and it's always special. Sarah has put up with this for as long as she could, but I can tell she's exhausted. She doesn't like being made to feel like an outsider in my family. She has brought it up to me multiple times, and I have tried to handle it diplomatically. I once sat down with my mother and told her that Sarah feels excluded. Linda waved it off, saying Sarah was too sensitive and that she treats both daughters-in-law the same. That was an outright lie, but arguing with her felt pointless. Then, last week, things finally came to a head. We attended a family dinner at my parents' house. As usual, Matt and Jessica were there, and as usual, Linda was fawning over them. She spent half the dinner praising Jessica for getting a promotion at work, talking about how hardworking and intelligent she was. It was excessive. Sarah, who had also been promoted just a month prior, wasn't acknowledged once. Not even a passing "oh, that's nice" when I brought it up. It was like she didn't hear me. Sarah was quiet on the drive home. When we got inside, she sat down, took a deep breath and said, "I'm done. I can't keep pretending this is okay. If you won't talk to her, I will." I hesitated. I knew Linda wouldn't take it well. She never reacts well to being confronted, especially when it comes to Matt. But at the same time, Sarah wasn't wrong. She had been patient, much more patient than she should have been, and she deserved respect. The next morning, Sarah called Linda and asked to meet in person. Linda sounded irritated but agreed. I didn't know how it was going to go, but I promised Sarah I would have her back no matter what. When we arrived at Linda's house, she was already in defensive mode. Sarah, to her credit, was calm and composed. She told Linda how she felt, how she had been ignored, excluded, and dismissed for years. She wasn't rude, just honest. Linda didn't take it well. She immediately denied everything, insisting she treated both daughters-in-law equally. She threw in the usual "I love both my sons and their wives," as if that somehow erased the years of favoritism. Then, as if on cue, the front door opened and in walked Matt and Jessica. They hadn't told us they would be coming, and from the way Linda's entire demeanor changed, I had a feeling this wasn't a coincidence. Suddenly, Linda was all smiles. She greeted Jessica like she was the most important person in the world, hugging her, asking her about her day, completely ignoring the fact that Sarah had just poured her heart out moments before. It was like we weren't even there. That was it. Sarah finally said what I had been too afraid to say for years. She pointed out the blatant favoritism, how Linda's entire attitude changed the second Matt and Jessica arrived. She didn't yell, she didn't get angry. She just laid it all out, plain as day. Linda didn't even try to deny it this time. Instead, she shrugged and said, "Well, Matt has always been the responsible one. He deserves more attention." That's when I stepped in. I reminded Linda of all the times she had ignored Sarah, all the times she had excluded us, all the times she had treated Matt like the golden child while expecting me to just deal with it. I told her that I had let it slide for too long, but I wasn't going to keep quiet anymore. And just like that, the waterworks started. Linda burst into tears, accusing us of attacking her, saying we were trying to ruin the family by making everything about favoritism. Matt, of course, jumped in to defend her, telling us we were overreacting. Jessica just sat there, looking smug. At that moment, I realized something. No matter what we said, no matter how obvious the favoritism was, Linda wasn't going to change. She had spent her entire life putting Matt first, and she wasn't about to stop now. Sarah stood up, grabbed her bag and said, "We're done here." And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty walking away. As soon as we walked out of Linda's house, the phone calls started. My father was the first to call, but I let it go to voicemail. When I checked it later, his voice was calm but tired. He said Linda was upset, felt attacked, and that I should try to smooth things over. He wasn't taking sides, just trying to keep the peace like he always did. I didn't call him back. Matt texted me that night, acting like nothing had happened. He said Linda had always been this way, so why was I making it a big deal now? It was like he genuinely could not understand why we had a problem. Jessica didn't say anything, but she liked his message. That was enough of an answer. The next morning, Sarah was scrolling through her phone when she let out a sharp laugh. Linda had posted on Facebook. It was one of those vague attention-seeking posts. Being a mother is a thankless job. Some people will never appreciate all you do for them, no matter how much love you give. The comment section was already filling up with sympathy from relatives and her friends. "You're an amazing mom," one person wrote. "Some people don't deserve you," said another. It didn't take long for extended family to start reaching out. My aunt sent me a message asking what happened. She was confused by Linda's post and wanted to hear my side. Before I could reply, she followed up with, "Your mother says you and Sarah disrespected her in her own home." Sarah rolled her eyes when I showed her. "Of course she's twisting it," she muttered. Over the next few hours, more texts came in from cousins, uncles, and even my grandmother. Some were neutral, just asking for details. Others had already decided we were in the wrong. "You know how your mother is," one of my uncles wrote. "Just apologize and move on." My father called again that evening. This time I answered. He didn't yell, didn't push, just sighed and said that Linda was still upset. He said I should apologize, not because he thought I was wrong, but because it would keep the family together. I told him I wasn't going to do that. Then Linda called. I didn't want to answer, but Sarah shook her head and said, "Might as well hear what she has to say." I put her on speaker. The moment she started talking, her tone was sharp. She demanded an apology. She said Sarah had no right to challenge her in her own home, and that she needed to learn her place in the family. She even had the nerve to say, "I raised you better than this." Sarah stared at the phone, then at me, waiting for my reaction. I told Linda I wasn't apologizing, that Sarah wasn't apologizing, that we were done pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Linda scoffed, then said something about how I was choosing my wife over my real family. Before I could respond, she hung up. That night, Sarah got a private message from Jessica. It was short. "I get why you're upset. I really do, but I don't want to be involved in this. I hope we can still be okay." Sarah read it twice, then showed it to me. "What does she even mean by that?" she asked. "She doesn't want to risk losing her golden status," I said. Sarah didn't bother replying. By the next day, Linda had started making phone calls to more extended family, spinning the situation in her favor. A few more messages came in from relatives, saying things like, "She's just hurt, and family is family." It was the same pattern as always. Protect Linda, brush everything under the rug, pretend it never happened. But then, something unexpected happened. My cousin Emily sent me a text. "I saw what my mom posted about you," she wrote. "I just want you to know, I get it. We've all seen how she treats you, compared to Matt. You and Sarah were right to call her out." I read the message twice. "Did you know she felt this way?" I asked Sarah. She shook her head. "I thought we were alone in this." Emily's message didn't change anything, but it felt like a small win. Thanksgiving was coming up, and we had planned to go to my parents' house, like we did every year. But now, neither of us was sure. If Linda was going to keep acting like the victim and treating Sarah like an outsider, was it even worth showing up? Sarah looked at me from across the table. "Are we really going to sit through another family dinner where she acts like we don't exist?" I didn't have an answer, but I knew things couldn't keep going the way they always had. Thanksgiving was getting closer, and my phone had been unusually quiet. Normally, by this time of year, Linda would be flooding the family group chat with meal prep updates, seating arrangements, and a detailed schedule of the day's events. This year, nothing. Then a few days before the holiday, she called. Her tone was smooth, carefully controlled. She said she wanted to move on, that she didn't like all this tension in the family, but she never actually acknowledged anything that had happened. No mention of Sarah, no acknowledgement of her behavior, nothing. Just a vague, "We're family, and family should stick together." Sarah listened from across the room, arms crossed. When I hung up, she didn't say anything for a moment. Then finally, "Are we really going to sit at a table with her like nothing happened?" That was all it took. I told Linda we wouldn't be coming. The pause on the other end of the line stretched long enough to make it clear she hadn't expected that. Then a clipped fine. The call ended. A few hours later, my father called. He wasn't angry, just tired. He said Linda was upset, that she had been looking forward to Thanksgiving with the whole family. He asked if I could reconsider, just for the sake of keeping the peace. I told him that Sarah didn't feel comfortable, and I wasn't going to force her into a situation where she felt unwelcome. He sighed, but didn't push any further. The next morning, Linda made another post on Facebook. Holidays used to be about love and family. It's sad when some people forget that. The usual comments rolled in, sympathetic messages, people telling her she was a wonderful mother, relatives asking what had happened. She never answered directly, just more vague, passive-aggressive replies. Thanksgiving came and went without us. That evening, one of my cousins messaged me. "She brought you up at dinner," she wrote. Kept making little digs about how some people would rather be with their new family than their real one. Another cousin sent something similar, saying Linda spent most of the night sulking and barely speaking to anyone. The next morning, Linda sent a long message. She talked about how family should always come first, how she never thought she'd see the day when her own son would turn his back on her. She accused me of choosing Sarah over her, of letting my wife poison me against my own mother. I didn't respond. Later that day, Matt texted, "This is getting ridiculous. Just apologize so we can all move on." No acknowledgement of why any of this started, just another way of telling me to stop making things difficult. I left the message on read. That evening, Sarah got another message from Jessica. It was more careful than the last one, but the meaning was clear. "I know things are tense right now, and I don't want to get in the middle of it, but I get it." She didn't outright take a side, but the fact that she even sent the message at all said enough. A few days later, my father reached out again. He suggested a family sit-down, something to clear the air. Sarah shook her head before I even finished telling her. "I'm not sitting through another conversation where she pretends she's done nothing wrong." I told my father that if Linda couldn't acknowledge her behavior, there was nothing to discuss. He sighed but didn't argue. Then, something unexpected happened. A couple of my cousins started reaching out. One of them, Emily, admitted that they had always noticed how Linda treated me compared to Matt. She said she respected Sarah for standing up for herself, that not many people had the courage to do it. Another cousin sent a similar message, saying they had overheard Linda complaining to relatives that Sarah was controlling me, that she was pulling me away from the family. Sarah wasn't even surprised when I told her. "Of course she's trying to spin it that way," she said. "She's losing control, so now I'm the villain." Then, out of nowhere, Matt called. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. His tone was more serious than usual, none of the usual dismissive attitude. He said he knew, deep down, that Linda had always favored him. He admitted that he had always felt guilty about it, but never wanted to rock the boat. He wasn't calling to apologize, just to acknowledge it. I asked him why he never said anything. He let out a breath. "Because it was easier this way." That told me everything I needed to know. With Christmas coming up, Sarah and I knew this wasn't over. Linda wasn't the type to let things go. But we made a decision. We weren't attending any events where her behavior went unchallenged. If she wanted to pretend nothing had happened, she could do it without us. As Christmas approached, Linda acted like nothing had happened. She sent out the usual group message about the holiday gathering at her house, listing the menu, what time to arrive, and how she was so excited to have the whole family together. No mention of Thanksgiving. No mention of the fact that we hadn't spoken in weeks. Sarah and I had already made our decision. We weren't going unless Linda acknowledged what had happened. There was no point in sitting through another meal where Sarah was ignored while Jessica was treated like royalty. I didn't respond to the message. A day later, Linda started sending private messages. At first, they were light, almost casual, asking if we were coming. When I didn't answer, they shifted into guilt trips. She talked about how family should be together during the holidays, how we were breaking traditions, how she never thought she'd see the day when her own son would abandon his mother on Christmas. I still didn't engage. Then something unexpected happened. Jessica messaged Sarah again. This time she wasn't vague. She admitted she had noticed the favoritism for a long time, but felt trapped because Matt refused to acknowledge it. She said she understood why Sarah was upset, and that if she were in her position, she wouldn't want to attend Christmas either. Matt, however, had a different approach. He called, acting like the bigger person, saying we should just get over it and come for the sake of keeping the peace. He didn't see what the big deal was, and he was tired of the drama. I told him we weren't going. The call ended quickly after that. The rest of the family started getting involved. Some aunts and uncles reached out, pressuring us to come, saying things like she's still your mother and it's just one night. But then there were others, like my cousin Emily, who messaged again, saying she respected our decision. It became clear that lines were being drawn. Some people wanted us to stay quiet and keep the peace, while others saw what was happening and understood. Sarah and I made alternative plans. We would be spending Christmas with her parents instead. They were thrilled. No drama, no tension, just a normal welcoming family gathering. Linda must have found out because the next morning she made another Facebook post. It's heartbreaking when your own children prioritize outsiders over family. Some people will regret their choices one day, but by then it will be too late. The comment section was filled with the usual sympathy, people telling her she was a wonderful mother, asking what had happened. She never answered directly. Then she made a new group chat with several family members, including me and Sarah. She launched into a rant about how she had been disrespected, how Sarah was turning me against my own family, how all she wanted was for everyone to be together, and how we were ruining Christmas. Sarah read the messages, took a deep breath, and typed out a response. She pointed out in plain terms the way Linda had treated her from the start, the blatant favoritism, the exclusion, the way she was ignored while Jessica was showered with affection. She made it clear that this wasn't about Christmas, but about years of being dismissed. Then she left the group chat. Linda didn't even try to deny it. Instead, Matt responded a few minutes later, blaming me for ruining Christmas and making Linda cry the whole evening. I didn't answer. Later that night, Sarah got a notification. Linda had blocked her on all platforms. It wasn't surprising. The next morning, I saw another message from Linda, sent before the block, filled with more guilt trips and claims that I had let my wife destroy our family. I didn't reply. Despite all the messages, the posts and the family backlash, Sarah and I enjoyed Christmas for the first time in years. No tension, no being treated like an afterthought, just a real celebration. But we both knew this wasn't over. Linda never let things go, and we had no doubt that the next battle was just around the corner. After Christmas, Linda went silent, at least toward me. She had stopped messaging, stopped calling, and stopped trying to guilt trip me directly. But she wasn't done. She just found a new way to get to me, my father. He called a few days after the holidays, sounding exhausted. He wasn't pushing me to apologize, just asking if I could talk things out with Linda to settle things. He said she was hurt, that she missed me, and that all of this had gone too far. I told him that unless Linda could acknowledge what she had done, there was nothing to discuss. He let out a long sigh but didn't argue. Over the next few days, I started hearing from extended family. Linda had been busy telling people that I was refusing to speak to her, leaving out any mention of why. A few relatives messaged me, confused, saying things like, "You should at least hear her out." Others stayed out of it completely. Then Sarah got an anonymous message. It was a set of screenshots from a private family group chat we weren't in. In the messages, Linda was complaining about how Sarah had stolen me from my real family, calling her manipulative and controlling. She wrote that she couldn't wait for the day I realized what a mistake I was making. Before Sarah could even react, Jessica messaged her separately. She confirmed she was in that group chat and admitted Linda had been saying things like that for a while. Jessica didn't agree with it, but she also didn't want to get involved. Sarah put her phone down and shook her head. "I'm done," she said. Completely done. That same night, Matt sent a message. It was short, direct, and full of anger. He called me pathetic for letting Sarah destroy my relationship with our mother. I didn't answer. Then Linda escalated again. She sent a message, not a direct threat, but a clear warning. She said she had been revising her will and that if I continued choosing Sarah over the family, I might not like what happened. I showed the message to Sarah, who didn't even blink. "She thinks that's leverage," she said. "We don't want anything from her." The next day, my father called again, but this time he sounded completely drained. He said he didn't agree with what Linda was doing but didn't know how to stop her. He had spent years trying to smooth over conflicts, trying to keep the family together, but this time it was out of his control. He didn't try to convince me to reach out again. He just said, "I'm tired." A few days passed without any new drama, until one of my childhood friends reached out. He said Linda had messaged him out of nowhere, asking if I had been acting differently lately. She told him she was worried about me, that I had changed, that I was pushing my family away. He shut her down immediately and let me know. At that point, it was becoming clear that Linda wasn't going to stop. She couldn't control me directly anymore, so she was trying to turn other people against me. But something else was happening too. Some family members were pulling away from her. My cousin Emily messaged again, saying she had been avoiding Linda because she was tired of hearing her complain about me. Another cousin told me they had skipped a family dinner because they didn't want to deal with the drama. Then came the final message. Linda sent a long text saying if I didn't fix this soon, our relationship would be permanently damaged. That if I continued to let Sarah come between us, there would be no going back. I answered with one line, "If you want a relationship with me, you need to change your behavior." Linda never responded. The next day, Matt messaged one last time, warning me that I would regret cutting Linda off. That family was forever, and that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. I ignored him. Then the final blow came. Linda attended a family gathering that Sarah and I had already decided to skip. According to one of my cousins, she spent the evening ranting about us, how we were disrespectful, how I had betrayed her, how she had done everything for me only to be abandoned. By now, it was clear to everyone that this wasn't about a misunderstanding. It was about control. And since she had lost that, she was going to make sure everyone knew just how wrong I was. Sarah and I had already made our choice, and we weren't looking back. A few days after Linda's meltdown at the family gathering, an email showed up in my inbox. The subject line was just my name. The email itself was long, several paragraphs of rehearsed outrage, carefully crafted to make herself the victim. She wrote that she was officially done with me unless I apologized. She claimed she had tried everything to fix things, but I had refused to meet her halfway. She never once mentioned Sarah directly, but made it clear that I was disrespecting my own mother and throwing away my family over something trivial. I read it twice, then closed it. I didn't reply. An hour later, Linda blocked me on everything. I checked my phone and her name had disappeared from my contacts. No more messages, no more guilt trips, nothing. Then Matt messaged. This time, he wasn't just frustrated, he was furious. He said I had broken our mother's heart, that she was devastated, that I was the reason she was in tears. He called me selfish, ungrateful, and a disgrace to the family. I didn't answer. Later that evening, my father sent a short message. "Hope you and Sarah are doing well." He didn't mention Linda. He didn't push me to apologize. It was clear where he stood, caught in the middle, tired of all the drama but unwilling to directly challenge her. Jessica messaged Sarah again. She confirmed that even though Linda had cut direct contact with me, she was still bad-mouthing us to anyone who would listen. She told relatives that I had abandoned her, and that Sarah had manipulated me into leaving my own family. Some relatives completely bought into it and stopped reaching out. Others quietly stayed neutral. Then Linda tried something new. Instead of going after me, she reached out to Sarah's parents. She called Sarah's mother, and in the most polite, sugar-coated way possible, tried to explain the situation. She painted herself as the heartbroken mother who had done nothing wrong and had been cast aside for no reason. Sarah's parents were polite but shut it down immediately. They told her they were not getting involved and ended the call. A few days later, some of my cousins started pushing back against Linda. One of them confronted her at a family event, telling her she was only making things worse by constantly playing the victim. Another cousin messaged me privately to say that Linda's constant complaining was starting to get on people's nerves. Then, out of nowhere, Matt sent me another message. It was short and to the point. Don't bother coming to our anniversary party. I hadn't planned on going, but it was clear this was his way of drawing a line. He had fully taken Linda's side. It wasn't surprising, but it was final. Sarah looked at the message and just shrugged. Honestly, I don't care anymore, she said. I was never welcome in that family to begin with. Then, like clockwork, Linda made another public pity post. Losing a child is the worst pain a mother can endure. I gave everything, and in the end it wasn't enough. The usual comments flooded in, people telling her she was a good mother, that she didn't deserve this, that I would come to my senses one day. Later that night, an unexpected message popped up. It was from my aunt. She said she didn't agree with how Linda was handling things, but didn't feel comfortable speaking out against her. She just wanted me to know that not everyone believed her version of events. That was the moment I realized something important. This was never going to be fixed. Linda was never going to change. Matt was never going to question her, and some relatives were too scared to go against her. It didn't matter what I said, what proof there was, or how reasonable Sarah and I had been. This was the reality. So we stopped trying. No more waiting for an apology that would never come. No more trying to convince people of the truth. We had our own lives to focus on, and then, suddenly Linda went completely silent. No posts, no messages through my father, no more gossip being sent my way. It felt too quiet, too sudden, and deep down, I knew this wasn't really over. Weeks passed without a word from Linda. No messages, no dramatic social media posts, nothing. The silence was strange, almost unnatural, and I knew it wouldn't last. Then my father called. His voice was tight, the same tired tone he had every time he got caught between Linda's chaos and reality. He told me Linda was throwing a massive family reunion, one that included every relative she could get in touch with. Everyone was invited. Everyone except Sarah and me. Hours later, Linda made it public. A long self-congratulatory post appeared on her Facebook. Nothing is more important than family. I'm so grateful to be surrounded by those who truly understand love and loyalty. Some people remove themselves from love, and that's their choice. We will celebrate without them. The comment section was filled with sympathy and praise. Then Matt texted, "Mom is done with you. Hope you and Sarah are happy being alone." I ignored him. As the event got closer, cousins started messaging me. Some just wanted to check in, while others gave me updates about what was really happening behind the scenes. Linda was treating this reunion like a performance. She had planned speeches about family values, little toasts to loyalty, and plenty of passive-aggressive remarks aimed at me, without mentioning my name, of course. Then, something I didn't expect happened. Jessica messaged Sarah again, but this time she wasn't subtle. She admitted she was getting sick of Linda's behavior, that it was exhausting pretending not to notice what was happening. She said she wasn't sure how much longer she could keep playing along. The reunion happened, and as expected, it turned into a spectacle. More messages started rolling in from cousins who attended. Apparently, Linda had gone all out, giving a speech about the importance of unity, dropping hints about lost loved ones who chose to walk away, and making sure everyone knew she was the victim. Then my father called again. This time he admitted it outright. Linda had fully cut me out of family discussions. She had no plans to make peace. As far as she was concerned, I was out for good. But Linda wasn't just telling people I had abandoned her. She had taken it further. She was now telling family members that I was mentally unstable and that Sarah was manipulating me, controlling my every move. The way she spun it, I was brainwashed, unable to think for myself. Then, one of my cousins spoke up. They had been at a family gathering where Linda was venting about me, and multiple relatives had heard her say that she was teaching me a lesson by cutting me off. Word spread quickly, and even some of those who had defended her started to question her motives. The recording spread fast. Some relatives, the ones who had been on the fence, started questioning everything. But Matt, he refused to believe it. He claimed I had twisted things, that I was just trying to make Linda look bad. Then came the breaking point. At a family gathering, Jessica finally spoke up. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation, but when Linda started making passive-aggressive comments about me and Sarah, Jessica hesitated before saying, "You know, Linda, you do treat them differently." It wasn't a full rebellion, but it was the first time she had ever acknowledged it in front of everyone. Linda exploded. Right there, in front of half the family, she went off, accusing Jessica of betrayal, calling her ungrateful, shouting about how she had given everything and was now being disrespected. It was loud, it was messy, and people were watching. The next morning, Linda did what she always did when she felt like she was losing control. She made another post. This time, it was different. It wasn't smug or passive-aggressive. It was desperate. Betrayal always comes from the least expected people. I never thought I'd see the day when my own blood would turn against me. But this time, something had changed. The usual flood of support wasn't there. Some relatives stayed quiet. A few even called her out in the comments. For the first time, her manipulation was backfiring. But I knew Linda. She wasn't done yet. After Jessica's public confrontation with Linda, everything spiraled fast. Jessica refused to speak to Linda after that night, ignoring calls, messages, and even attempts to ambush her at family events. That was the first real crack in Linda's carefully maintained control. Matt, caught between his wife and his mother, started acting differently. At first he defended Linda, trying to smooth things over. But Jessica was done pretending. She refused to let Linda manipulate her the way she had manipulated the rest of the family for years. Matt stopped pushing Jessica to make amends, but he didn't cut Linda off either. He was stuck, and for the first time it was obvious. Meanwhile, more cousins were pulling away. A few of them, including Emily, stopped answering Linda's calls altogether. Some of them confronted her directly, telling her she needed to stop turning every conversation into a complaint about how ungrateful I was. Others just silently faded out of her orbit, no longer willing to get dragged into the drama. Instead of backing down, Linda doubled down. She told anyone who would listen that Jessica had turned Matt against her, and that it was only a matter of time before he realized his mistake. She called Jessica disrespectful, ungrateful, and dramatic. But her usual tactics were losing their effect. People weren't blindly taking her side anymore. Then my father finally spoke up. After years of staying neutral, of playing the peacekeeper, he snapped. He told Linda that she was destroying the family, that she was pushing people away with her behavior. He told her outright that this wasn't about me or Jessica. It was about her refusing to admit she was wrong. Linda did not take that well. In a fit of rage, she told my father that if he was defending me, he was choosing the wrong son. She accused him of betraying her, of failing as a husband, of letting her be disrespected in her own home. She even threw in the classic line, "After everything I have done for this family." Meanwhile, Matt and Jessica's marriage was starting to feel the impact. Jessica made it clear she was done playing along with Linda's games, but Matt still couldn't bring himself to set firm boundaries. They started arguing more, with Jessica pushing him to see what was happening, and Matt refusing to fully acknowledge it. Then Jessica put her foot down. She told Matt that if he didn't start distancing himself from his mother's toxicity, it was going to affect their marriage. She wasn't going to live under Linda's shadow for the rest of her life. It was a clear ultimatum. For the first time, Matt didn't immediately defend Linda. Instead, he stopped answering her calls. He ignored the guilt-tripping messages, the dramatic voicemails, and the "let's just talk" attempts. He didn't cut her off completely, but he was avoiding her. Linda's desperation peaked. She started calling my father constantly, demanding he take her side. When he refused to play into her drama, she called other relatives, complaining that she was being abandoned. Some still pitied her, but more and more people were pulling away. Then something surprising happened. Sarah started getting messages from family members apologizing. Some admitted they had doubted her before, believing Linda's version of events. Others just said they finally saw what was happening and wished they had spoken up sooner. Linda wasn't handling the shift well. As more people distanced themselves, she became increasingly isolated. But instead of admitting she had pushed everyone away, she clung harder to her victim narrative. She blamed Jessica. She blamed Sarah. She blamed my father. She blamed everyone except herself. Then Matt sent me a message. It was short, only a few words. "I do not know what to believe anymore." That was the first time he had ever admitted even a shred of doubt. And then, as expected, Linda made her next move. She posted another dramatic Facebook status. This time, it was different. "I am taking a break from family. I need time to heal from betrayal. Sometimes, even those closest to you turn against you. I will always have love in my heart, but I need to protect my peace." This time, the usual flood of supportive comments was smaller. Some relatives still coddled her, but others ignored it completely. Sarah read the post and sighed. "She's setting something up," she said, and she was right. Linda wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. Out of nowhere, an email from Linda appeared in my inbox. After months of chaos, silence, and social media meltdowns, she was back, this time with a final manipulation attempt. The email was long and carefully worded. She claimed she was willing to forgive me, that she was ready to move past everything if I was willing to apologize. But there was a catch. She made it clear that in order to heal our relationship, I had to cut Sarah out of my life. I didn't even read the entire thing. I deleted it without replying. A day later, the fallout began. Linda must have realized I wasn't going to respond, because she immediately shifted into attack mode. She started spreading messages through family members, claiming I had been brainwashed, that Sarah had isolated me from my real family. She said she had extended an olive branch, only to be rejected, and that I was beyond saving. Then something unexpected happened. Matt snapped. After months of stress, pressure, and being caught between his wife and his mother, he finally reached his breaking point. He told Linda to back off, that she needed to stop interfering in his life. He told her he was done listening to her endless complaints, that she had pushed too many people away. Jessica had been holding strong throughout everything, but this was the final test. She told Matt that if he ever let Linda manipulate him again, she was leaving. She wasn't going to live her life trapped in Linda's cycle of control. Then came the real shock. My father finally had enough. After years of dealing with Linda's toxicity, of trying to keep the peace, of letting her dominate every family interaction, he left. He temporarily moved in with a relative, telling Linda he needed space. The shift in the family was undeniable. Linda had spent so long controlling the narrative, making herself the victim, spinning stories to keep people on her side. But now, one by one, people were turning away. She was becoming a social pariah. The once chaotic family group chat, where Linda used to stir up drama, guilt trip, and remind everyone about family loyalty, went silent. No one engaged with her anymore. Then Matt messaged me. His text was hesitant. I don't know what to think anymore. I've been thinking about everything, and I can't deny that Mom has always treated me differently. I let it happen for too long. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say at first. After everything he had done, after every time he dismissed me, blamed me, told me to just apologize, he was finally seeing the truth. I didn't know if I could ever fully trust him again, but for the first time he wasn't just blindly defending Linda. Meanwhile, Jessica and Sarah, the two women who had been pitted against each other for years, started talking more. They had always been polite to each other, but now they had something real in common, a shared experience of dealing with Linda's favoritism and manipulation. Then my father reached out again. He admitted that stepping away from Linda was the most peaceful he had felt in years. He told me he regretted not standing up to her sooner. Linda made one last desperate move. She posted another dramatic status. Some sons forget who raised them. They turn their backs on the people who gave them everything. One day, they will regret their choices. This time it barely got any attention. The few comments were lukewarm. Some relatives gave vague sympathy, but most people ignored it. The control she once had over the family was slipping away. For the first time in years, Sarah and I felt completely free from the toxic family dynamic. No more guilt trips. No more backhanded insults. No more walking on eggshells. We moved forward, focusing on our own happiness. Months later, I heard from a cousin that Linda had attempted to reconcile with my father. She had called multiple times, but he refused to answer. She had finally pushed too far, and for the first time in her life, no one was coming to clean up her mess.